How are you functioning if the body temple is clogged, if the arteries are clogged up and blood can't bring nutrients throughout the body, if it can't transport oxygen to the brain? What kind of level are we functioning at if we're walking around and our intestines and our guts are distended, if our stomach is distended, and if we're eating to the point where we're actually deforming the natural shape of the body, and the body is forced to carry all these other substances that are masquerading as food? If the body is clogged with all of this stuff that doesn't have any living water in it, and the body is showing us the result of what we're putting into it. So how are we functioning if the body temple is clogged, which means our thinking is going to be affected by a clogged body, our circulation, our breathing is going to be affected by this distended mass of blockage. It's going to affect and does affect our energy level and our decision making and our ability to relate with each other. It affects our blood pressure, right? It's affecting everything. So how are we functioning if the body is clogged and if the body is dehydrated, which means the brain is dehydrated and the organs are dehydrated and to a certain degree dried out? So how can we possibly be functioning optimally? So I invite you to just give it some thought, rather than thinking of dieting and running off fat and letting the ego go to perhaps sometimes even another extreme of whipping the body into submission. If we can get a big enough why and some clear reasoning, that can really catapult us into a clarity about what we put into our bodies. If this resonates with you, good. If it doesn't, toss it, trash it. How is the body functioning if it's clogged, blocked, and if our systems are dehydrated, and if the brain is dehydrated? How are we functioning if the body is dried out and dehydrated? If we're eating to the point where we're deforming our natural structure, if we're eating substances that are so dried out and devoid of living water that they just create blockages and brick-like masses inside the system, if we're eating lots of substances that are masquerading as food substances, that the body is showing us how it's reacting to it by storing them as waste, how could we possibly be functioning optimally? How can we be in a good mood? How can we relate to each other if the body, although it may not all the time be in excruciating pain, is almost deadened by these blockages? And these things are in these colorful, bright packages, and we've been conditioned and quite addicted to eating substances that are clogging the body. How do you think that affects our brain? So this is definitely not about a mentality of dieting and willpower and trying so hard not to eat something. I've observed it's a clarity of the suffering, or having less access to my brain, and not having a good mood, just my body not functioning properly. It's a clarity that really guides me in my food choices. And clarity is hard to come by. Usually it's a lot of suffering that causes folks to be really, really clear and catapults folks to change. Sometimes you have to be repulsed by suffering in order to change. So substances that clearly alter our ability to relate in a healthy way that make us drunk in terms of how that's affecting the brain cells, and not have access to clear, sharp thinking, things that catapult the cells to start creating cancerous cells or growths in the system, in addition to eating to the point where it's distended. All this clogging, the things that we're putting into the body are revealing themselves. The body is telling us how it's responding to the dead animal flesh, and not only just in terms of what we look like, how we feel, and how we are behaving towards each other, towards other creatures on the planet, and in general, it's showing up in our behavior. So the substances, the energy that we're taking in, is showing itself. It doesn't really require a lot. That part is easy. So I don't know if I want to say easy, but it's a clarity that can really fuel our choices of consumption at a level of food, and then also at a level of the music, which we know programs us, right? Contributes to programming, and the conversations and the people, everything that we're consuming, we're affected by. You are what you eat. You are what you consume. So, what are we clogging ourselves up with, food-wise, and in every other area of our lives? Is what we're consuming allowing us to feel really free and energized and fluid and light and strong? What do you desire to feel like and perform like? What kind of health do you desire? What's your why? So are we clogging everything up, or are we freeing everything up? It has nothing to do with dieting. Yeah, so my mustard green, look at that. Looking nice, and my okra looking real nice. And then let's plant some more herbs over here. All made at home. So if you're growing something for the Jump into Fitness and Garden Challenge, this is idea. Sprouts, they're full of protein and they're not